In the world of American immigration law, some cases become symbols of a larger struggle over justice and authority. These cases don't just affect the people at their center, they ripple outward, shaping debates about fairness, government power, and the meaning of due process for everyone. The case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a Salvadoran migrant, is one such story, marked by deportations, returns, and detentions in a dizzying legal saga. His journey through the U.S. immigration system has been anything but straightforward, filled with unexpected turns and legal obstacles at every step. Yesterday, December 11, 2025, a federal judge in Maryland ordered his immediate release from ICE detention, a major moment in his ongoing battle. For Abrego Garcia, this decision was not just a personal victory, it was a rare and public rebuke of the system that had held him for so long. But this is far from over. His case is now a high-stakes confrontation between the courts and the executive branch, testing the limits of government power and individual rights. The outcome could set a precedent for countless others facing similar battles. The story of Abrego Garcia forces us to ask, how long can the government detain someone without clear legal grounds? What rights do individuals have when the rules seem to shift beneath their feet? What happens when officials mislead a court? Can the truth survive in a system under pressure from politics and public opinion? Where is the line between law enforcement and vindictive prosecution? When does the pursuit of justice cross into something more personal or even punitive? These are not just legal theories. They're real questions at the heart of this case, with implications for thousands navigating the U.S. immigration system. For families waiting outside courtrooms, these decisions can mean the difference between hope and despair. As we explore the key moments of this case, we'll see how each step reveals new layers of complexity. Every ruling, every motion, and every delay adds to the stakes and the uncertainty. From wrongful deportation to dramatic court orders, this is a story about the power of the courts, the responsibilities of government, and the resilience of one man caught in a national legal battle. It's a reminder that behind every headline, there are real lives at stake. And the next chapter is just beginning. Kilmar Abrego. Garcia's journey through the U.S. immigration system is long and complicated, marked by multiple entries and removals. Originally from El Salvador, he sought safety and opportunity in the U.S., but his repeated deportations created a tangled legal web. Each removal made it harder for him to fight future deportations, and the government used this history to justify aggressive efforts to detain and expel him. For officials, his record showed repeated violations of immigration law, a reason to keep him out. But for Abrego Garcia and his lawyers, his actions reflected desperation and fear, not disregard for the law. This fundamental disagreement, enforcement versus human desperation, has fueled years of courtroom battles. The government sees a pattern of non-compliance, his lawyers see a man seeking safety. This clash of narratives set the stage for the extraordinary events of the past year, and it's this conflict that continues to drive the case forward. In March 2025, Abrego Garcia's case took a shocking and unexpected turn that would reverberate through the legal system. Despite a federal court order explicitly protecting him from removal, he was abruptly deported to El Salvador. The move stunned his legal team and supporters, who had believed the court's decision would be respected. The government called it an administrative error, a simple mistake in paperwork, but Judge Paula Shinas saw it as something far more serious, a direct subversion of the judicial process and a challenge to the authority of the courts. At the time, Judge Shinas had been carefully reviewing the legality of his detention. The government's sudden action removed him from her jurisdiction entirely, sparking what many described as a constitutional crisis in miniature and raising questions about the separation of powers. Judge Shinas responded forcefully and without hesitation, ordering his immediate return to the United States. A rare and bold assertion of judicial authority over the executive branch, and a move that sent shockwaves through legal circles. The government, under intense scrutiny, was compelled to comply. In June 2025, Abrego Garcia was flown back to the U.S., but his ordeal was far from over, and his return did not mean freedom. Upon landing, he was immediately detained again, this time on new and serious charges. An indictment for human smuggling stemming from a 20,000 traffic stop that had previously seemed unrelated to his immigration case. His lawyers quickly argued that the timing of the indictment was highly suspicious, suggesting that the investigation only began while he was wrongfully detained in El Salvador and that the charges were a form of retaliation. This new indictment deepened the sense among his supporters and legal advocates that Abrego Garcia was being unfairly targeted by the system, and that his rights were being systematically undermined. The legal battle now intensified, with mounting accusations of government misconduct, retaliation, and abuse of power, drawing national attention to the case. The case now became about far more than just immigration status. It was about the very integrity of the legal process itself, and whether the rule of law would prevail. Each move by the government and the courts added new layers of complexity and tension to an already tangled legal saga, with the outcome growing more uncertain by the day. And as the stakes kept rising, the nation watched closely, waiting to see what would happen next. The legal drama reached a climax this week in Maryland. On December 11, 2025, Judge Zinnes ordered Abrego Garcia's immediate release from ICE detention, not because of his asylum claim, but because the government lacked lawful authority to hold him. The Trump administration had never obtained a final, formal order of removal, a crucial legal requirement for detention. Judge Zinnes found that without such an order, the government's justification for holding him vanished. She rejected the Justice Department's argument that a 2019 ruling implied a removal order, calling it legally insufficient. Her decision was a powerful assertion of judicial oversight, sending a clear message: the government cannot detain people indefinitely without strict legal justification. By ordering his release, Judge Zinnes reaffirmed that liberty is the default, and detention requires clear legal grounds. The burden now shifts back to the government to proceed lawfully. The legal fight over Abrego Garcia's detention pitted government enforcement against individual rights. The Justice Department argued his history of deportations made him a priority for removal, and that his detention was necessary to prevent flight. They claimed earlier court records were enough to justify holding him, even without a formal removal order. Abrego Garcia's lawyers countered that detention without a clear final order is illegal, insisting the law demands precision when liberty is at stake. They accused the government of bad faith, pointing to the wrongful deportation and the suspicious timing of new criminal charges. The defense argued this was not standard immigration enforcement, but a targeted campaign against their client. The courtroom became a battleground over due process and the limits of executive power. Judge Zinnes' decision was grounded in a major Supreme Court precedent, Zadvitas v. Davis. In 2001, the court ruled the government cannot indefinitely detain a non-citizen. It cannot actually remove. The ruling set a 6-month limit for detention after a final removal order. If deportation isn't foreseeable, continued detention is unconstitutional. Judge Zinnes applied this logic to Abrego Garcia's case, noting he didn't even have a final removal order. If indefinite detention is barred with a removal order, it's even less justified without one. The government's attempts to argue otherwise failed to convince the court. Zadvitas provided the constitutional foundation for Judge Zinnes' order, reinforcing that government power has limits, even in immigration. The precedent loomed large, shaping the outcome and sending a message about the rule of law. The government's legal position was left weaker than ever. The Trump administration's response was swift and combative. Officials framed Judge Zinnes' order as judicial activism, dismissing it as a political act rather than a legal decision. White House and Homeland Security leaders condemned the ruling, vowing to fight it in higher courts. This rhetoric is part of a broader strategy, portraying judges as unelected activists interfering with immigration enforcement. The administration's criticism reflects ongoing tension between the executive branch and the judiciary over immigration policy. By casting the ruling as overreach, they rally their base and set the stage for appeal. The battle over Abrego Garcia's fate is far from over. With Judge Zinnes' order, Abrego Garcia is out of detention for now, living with his brother as legal battles continue. For the first time in months, he's able to spend time with his family, share meals, and try to regain a sense of normalcy, even as uncertainty hangs over every day. His freedom is precarious. He faces two major challenges: the government's appeal and a looming criminal trial in Nashville. Every day he and his family live with the anxiety that everything could change in an instant, and that the fragile peace they've found could be shattered. The Trump administration is appealing his release, moving the case to a federal appellate court. This next phase will determine whether he can remain with his family or be sent back into detention, possibly for months or even years. If the government wins, he could be detained again, losing the freedom he's only just regained and returning to the uncertainty of life behind bars. Meanwhile, he faces federal charges for human smuggling, which his lawyers argue are retaliatory and politically motivated. The stakes are high, and the outcome could set a precedent for others in similar situations. A hearing on their motion to dismiss is set for January 2026. Until then, Abrego Garcia and his legal team must prepare for a long and difficult fight, gathering evidence and building their case. If the judge agrees, the criminal case could be thrown out. If not, he faces trial and possible conviction, with the risk of a lengthy prison sentence and permanent separation from his loved ones. Other legal threads remain, including a motion for sanctions against the government for its conduct, which could have broader implications for how such cases are handled in the future. For Abrego Garcia, the future is uncertain, his life suspended between court dates, appeals, and the ever-present threat of detention. Each day is a test of patience and resilience. The outcome of these battles will shape not just his fate, but the legal landscape for many others facing similar struggles, making his case one to watch in the months ahead. Kilmar Abrego. Garcia's story is more than a personal drama, it's a case with national implications for the rule of law. It exposes the vast power of the executive branch and the crucial role of the judiciary in holding it accountable. Judge Sinis's rulings assert that due process applies to everyone, regardless of citizenship. The case highlights vulnerabilities in the immigration system, wrongful deportations, misleading the court, and potential for abuse. It forces a national conversation about transparency, accountability, and the limits of government power. The pending motion for sanctions could set a precedent for judicial integrity. The outcome will help define executive power in immigration for years to come. This case will be studied as a defining chapter in the ongoing debate over justice, rights, and the American legal system.